Okay, so welcome and thank you once again for joining the TVU Networks panel, The Best Way to Produce in 2023, hosted by Fergal Ringrose. Please note that this is a Zoom webinar format where you are unable to share your camera and microphone. If you have any questions throughout the panel, you can use the Q&A section to write a question, which will be answered at the end of the presentation. I will hand over now to Fergal.
Hello, welcome to The Best Way to Produce in 2023, a TVU Networks webinar designed to help you and your business prepare for the new year. Founded in 2005 and headquartered in Mountain View, California, TVU Networks is a global organization with more than 3,000 customers using its IP and cloud-based workflow solutions across multiple industries, including news, entertainment, media, sports, corporate, streaming, houses of worship, and government. The company is on the forefront of developing the tools needed to revolutionize and streamline the media supply chain. TVU is a technology and engineering Emmy Award winner and has major offices in Barcelona and Shanghai. I'm Fergal Ringrose, an independent writer and editor in the broadcast and production space, and I'm delighted to be your host today. I was most recently a live production editor at NAB Amplify. Before that, I was editor and then editorial director of Sports Video Group Europe. During that time, I also was the founding editor and executive editor of the IBC 365 content platform. And then before that, I was editor of the IBC Daily News and TVB Europe. It's my pleasure to introduce my three TVU Networks speakers, bringing their expertise to today's webinar. Jean-Christophe Albu is Sales Director Europe for TVU Networks. Jean-Christophe has decades of experience working for solutions providers in broadcast, including Avid, LiveView, Telestream, and Thomson, and has a strong knowledge of the European market. Hello, Jean-Christophe.
Hi, everyone. Nice to be in this webinar with you guys.
Fernando Pinto-Yes is TVU Networks Head of Solutions EMEA. Fernando is a technical expert with 20 plus years of experience, including Disney ESPN. Hi, Fernando.
Hi, Fergal. Thank you very much for that introduction. I'm super excited to be part of this panel and webinar. Thank you.
And Yoni Tayar is Global Marketing Director of TVU Networks. Yoni has a global view on customer pain points and the creative workflows the company is currently developing. Hi, Yoni.
Hi, Fergal. Hi, everyone. And excited to see you again for the start of this new year.
So today's webinar is an open discussion on remote production that should run about 45 minutes, including the Q&A. As Christelle has mentioned, if you would like to ask a question, please put it in the Q&A box at the bottom of your screen, and I will get to it before the end of the show. So we're here to talk about remote production and the best way to produce in 2023. We've all seen in events and shows remotely produced for many years now. But as we know, the global pandemic has accelerated the trend and changed the landscape. The continuous progress in public internet technology and cellular networks have made what seemed impossible a few years ago a reality today. So let's start with the trends we're currently seeing in remote production. Yoni, you're in contact with many different media organizations in so many regions. What are the key trends you're seeing?
Yeah, so it's interesting. I mean, as you see, definitely like the technology has made, I've made like a huge progress in the last year. I mean, 5G is one of it, but like even the internet speeds and the setup of like a lot more like fiber optic networks all around the world, like public ones. So we are definitely like seeing like a much faster acquisition to what we all call like remote production. Okay, so remote production model is like just like being able to produce content from any remote location, not on site at the venue. And it's nothing new. I mean, everybody knows about remote production. There are so many ways to achieve that. But what I would say is new now is that it has become the main way to produce content today. Whatever the form of remote production you are dealing with, it's become the main way. Definitely, it was accelerated by COVID. What has always been like a slow breaker, I would say, to the remote production ecosystem was the worries about like synchronization issues and latency or stability over like IP workflows. But a lot of this is in the past, as like really the workflow have been like the technology, like Fergal said it like at the beginning, have been like definitely like growing. So what we see, which I find very interesting, and I take that example as Germany in Europe, is that we see a lot of the region that like basically have been late in the, I would say like technology environment. I would talk about maybe more Latin America or some region of like Africa that are embracing like the latest way of remote production much faster because they don't have the baggage of like heavy infrastructure that like allowed them at the beginning to really like be in the broadcast or the sport production environment. So they are much faster adopter. And I'm taking this example of Germany, who was one of the first in Europe to have like internet with like high-speed internet using like the copper cable. And now we all know that when we go in Germany, like the network is not always very fast because like the decision of Dutch Telecom was to like invest in maintaining this network instead of like replacing it with like fiber optic because it was a lot more expensive to do. So again, like we will see that like how it's been faster. Like I'm sure we will see a lot of different workflows that are very interesting. But in the end, like really now the trend that we see in this region is producing more. I mean, like we did the Copa America, which is the equivalent of like the Euro, like using like smartphones and remote commentators. I mean, it's pretty insane how we are saying like major events now moving to this kind of like workflow. Okay. I'm sure that JC has like so much experience in Europe that he can share his view on what's happening in Europe more in detail.
Yeah. So thanks, Yoni, for this great introduction. It's a good sum up of what happened in the last year. And of course, we saw the COVID changing a lot of the rules of the games. So let me just go back a little bit. So live was for a very long time all about news. So TVU built since more than 15 years some of the best tools in the world to transmit and distribute content from any location to any destination, even with very poor network. So what we see in the world, and especially in Europe, is a very fast growth of IP-bonded technologies adoption in many industries, such as news, but also defense, medical, and now we see especially the sport industry getting that adoption. So in Europe, we do have a very strong and reliable 4G and now 5G network in most of the European countries that allows more and more reliable mobile production, and especially in sports outdoor productions. So what's interesting is those productions are actually quite similar in terms of level of quality than traditional fiber or satellite-based production. So our IP bonded technology also offers a very robust, cost-effective alternative backup solution to those existing fiber or satellite live solutions. So in terms of trends, we see four major ones, and especially in Europe. At first, we see that in some countries, some companies and some broadcasters are just discontinuing the use of satellites. For example, in Belgium, the news channel just doesn't use any more obi-vans to produce live content. We also have in many of our countries, like even Mediaset in Spain, decided to just stop using satellites. In the same time, as another trend important is we see all the major European telco going to sport production, high quality sports production, and promoting those IP bonded technologies. So it can give many names, BT Sports, Orange, Vodafone. They are all very much helping the technology vendors such as TVU to embrace those technology and make them affordable for everyone. Also, what we see more and more, the adoption of IP bonded technology for contribution, but also replacing for the distribution part, the satellite traditional way of sharing content. For example, and I think it's an interesting one, NX, that used to be only about sharing news using satellite technology, now is using IP bonded technology for contribution and distribution. And another important customer and partner is EBU that produce more and more content. And without saying that we see, of course, news agencies getting not only satellite and fiber technology, but using IP bonded technologies. The last, and I think very important also trend that helps a lot the adoption of remote production and our tool is to see that it's not only about just getting the video and audio feeds from the field to a destination, but also the use of PTZ remote control cameras. So this is in parallel of the live transmission, the IP live transmission from the field, and it helps reducing again the equipment and team involved on site for every event. So when you reduce the number of people on site, you also reduce the cost, and that makes also a big difference when you want to produce content in very specific location where it's difficult to have journalists and cameras everywhere, like for ski competition or marathon. Then you can put pre-installed cameras on location and just control the video and audio, but also the PTZ cameras themselves. And we did saw that big use of PTZ control for the last Olympic Games, and also, as I said, for many ski competition. Now, just to give you also another interesting fact about production. 99% of sports doesn't get live. Only premium sports gets live. So there's a huge need of having tools, reliable, easy to use, but also cost effective to allow more sports production, which means many sports that never was able to get live so far now can get live. And even now with a tool such as TVU Producer, a single operator can run a full entire production. With remote production, you produce from anywhere with anyone. In other words, for production company, your team can now produce way more event and content than they used to do before. So TVU, yes, offer for remote production, high quality, reliable, cost-effective suites of solutions and tools. It serves from contribution, production, but also distribution of these contents. And very important, all natively integrated and connected all together. The users doesn't need multiple tools or different interfaces, which also involves complicated training for the operators, and sometimes creating hazardous results or issues with integration of third-party tools to make just one live. So TVU really is a major actor in the remote production, also because we have this streamlined, easy to use line of components for remote production.
Well, thanks, JC. That's a great overview of some of the key European trends and some of the key European players as well. Of course, no one size fits all. So let's talk about the different types of remote production we're currently seeing. Yoni, can you take us through some of the latest hybrid and more affordable solutions that are out there? You're on mute, I think.
Good point.
Yep.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Yeah, so indeed, like we all know, like the different models. I would say that the oldest one, maybe, and more traditional one would be like all the major football venues or stadium that have like dedicated fiber line to a remote studio. I mean, I would give the example of Media Pro with La Liga because they are our neighbors in Spain. They are just in front of our office. But like from that model, which is very reliable but very costly as well, like we've seen like an evolution of like hybrid models where you are able to combine actually some hardware infrastructure. So for example, having an encoder at the venue that like connect all the camera together, and just having a decoder at a remote location, being able to just receive all the feeds and you do the production from your existing studio, which a lot of the time is unused. Like there are a lot of studios that are during the weekend, like in low usage. So that's a very good way to like, I would say like use like the equipment and maximize like your return on investment. And the last way that, I mean, we did spend a lot more time talking about it today is also the cloud native approach. So like fully cloud native is something that has been slow in a way to adopt. I mean, it's been starting in the last 5 years, I would say already. But like, I mean, yeah, a lot of people have been trying it, but feeling like they were missing some stuff or like the stability was not there yet. And we'll see today how a lot of broadcasters, sports and news broadcasters have embraced really like the cloud native environment and over public internet, which I mean, really like JC said, allows you to produce a lot more events. I mean, 99% of the sports events are not being produced, and allows you as well to build more content on top of existing programs. It's not only about new event, but for example, I think we'll go through it with Fernando later, but like just putting regionalization of your content and maybe like remote commentaries in some local languages so that you can like now broadcast your content on other regions that are like maybe super interested in football or like handball or whatever the sports. Okay,
that's great. Thanks, Yoni.
So yeah, I'm sorry for you. I just wanted to add that last sentence because it was a customer that said that one day, and I find it like funny. It's like it was saying basically what we are doing is like it's not an OB van anymore. It's like you can still be in a van if you want, but with your laptop and a phone, or with your laptop and a backpack, and that's all. I mean, that's all you need. So it's I found the parallel like funny in a way that that's really what it is, and that's the new ways of producing today. Thank you, Fergal.
Okay, great. Thanks, Yoni. So now we've looked in some detail at remote production trends and evolution. So let's talk about some of the limitations and benefits of each model. Fernando, what are some of the innovations that excite you the most?
Well, thank you, Fergal. As we see here in the slide that we are sharing, we encounter different elements with different latencies, right? And I guess this is one of the constraints that we find whenever we are into a cloud production environment, right? So, I mean, for example, the REMI concept that Johnny and JC was talking about a few minutes ago, as they say, this is not something new, right? This is a really old concept during the years, but when COVID started, we needed to decentralize, right, that type of workflow. So at that moment, this decentralization introduced new challenges, right, in the middle of the equation, in the middle of the workflow. Okay, and so a couple of those challenges that we are facing, just to bring a few of them, right, is like for example, the operators need to have a super low latency remote control, for example, right? And that is something that at the beginning you were trying to remote connect whatever surface you had in the production gallery, right, into the operator home or into the operator remote location, right? And this introduces that as a new challenge. Okay, how we can get low latency control response, okay, for those kind of surfaces that we were using to produce, right? And again, speaking about low latency, talking about low latency, we need to be able to have all the production crew, whatever they are, right, be able to monitor the program, basically, right, the video feeds, what is happening in the real production, right? And we need to have that in a really low latency manner. Okay, so again, this is another challenge that and we faced. I say we because I was part of. I come, as you said, from the broadcast industry, right? And we were part of that evolution, right? And then when you have all these decentralized elements, then we introduce what we call, okay, synchronization, how we can get all the sources, controls, actions, right, modifications, synchronized all together, okay, to be combined into a single production flow, right? I guess those are the main at least for us, the main challenges that decentralized production and cloud production introduce, okay, to the equation. But again, this is not any issue anymore because we are solving all those problems, right, or those challenges, right? Day after day, we are developing the tools, we are improving the tools, right? And in the other hand, right, benefits are the most here, right? Okay, I can start saying that you don't need any infrastructure, right? This is like decentralized production using cloud production, right? Remote production. You don't need that much of infrastructure anymore, okay? It's a matter of services and when do you need those services and who is able or who should be able to use those services, when and where, right? But again, I guess one way, and I will pass to Johnny and JC so we can discuss a little bit more about the benefits of the decentralized production. But one way that we are using to solve the synchronization challenge is the timestamp. Okay, we in TVU have this timestamp feature. So we timestamp all the sources, okay, throughout the entire ecosystem. Okay, so every single source that we take in gets timestamped. So we can use that in what we call our real-time interaction layer. Okay, so we use like a layer for the operators to interact and to control over, right? So everybody sees everything at the same time, and wherever they are taking an action, we will timestamp that action into that single frame, and then the action will occur at that exact timestamp. Okay, so that is how we solve, okay, synchronization. So you don't need anymore to struggle with latency, with adding delays in your facility infrastructure, so you can match, right, audio with video. With TVU, we timestamp all the sources, all the actions, all the resources and services, and then in the back end, everything gets synchronized. Okay, so going back to you, Johnny and JC, on the benefits. Okay, so we can keep discussing.
So Fernando, thanks a lot for this great presentation of the challenges. What I would like to highlight is the synchronization, the timestamp of the streams is very important, not only for sports, but also for news production. When you have the same show being, for example, produced in different languages, so you have different stand-up and different journalists. And the challenge is to get all those feeds frame accurate, synced, and this is exactly where the TVU solution brings a very good response, because it doesn't matter if you are producing news or sports, we always get the different multi-camera feeds synced together. Now, of course, there are other benefits for the decentralized production. We talked about it, but that's very important. As we just said, many events still doesn't get live, especially in sports. So when you decentralize the production, it also ensures that the travel costs are less. And this is, of course, better for the environmental impact. And this is also faster to set up. You reduce the number of hours. And I will give you a very nice example with the US Open Golf, where in the past, you need to dig in the ground to put fiber and like miles of fiber connection just to create the live. And now, just come with backpacks like 2 days before with minimum teams, and you just achieve the same quality and the same level of production, and you also distribute the content on the very same way, but reducing the cost. Of course, it also means that with the years and the simplification of the user interface and let's say the performance of the tool, you need less skills to operate. And we especially saw that during the COVID, where talent become the operator. That means for flexibility, we cover more events from anywhere, even from home. So, and it's not only about this, but also we see that the decentralized production is also some way of adding redundancy and backup and stability for the live production. And even for the premium sports, we rely on satellite, but satellite is not also a perfect solution. It's not 100% all the time a live solution. So we see the adoption of IP bonded technology in TVU being used in premium sport as a backup solution for satellite or fiber solution. And the decentralized production, we see it more and more in high quality sports production. And we saw that recently with EBU producing more and more content with PZ camera and IP bonded live transmission. And Yoni, maybe you can give an example about the Ironman remote production that will speak by itself.
Yeah, I mean, I always like that example in the way that first I like Ironman because I think it's crazy. But like they are basically producing, so AMP Visual that you all know very well in Paris are producing most of the Ironman events remotely from a Paris location. That includes like the finals that are happening in Hawaii, where like what they are doing is just using their packs basically. I don't know if, yeah, let me just share like that's the benefits of being virtual. So you can see an example. That's from the TVU website. So there are lots of workflow available if you are looking for inspiration on how to do your event production differently and remotely to increase your flexibility and your cost. But here it's just basically all the motorbike or boat or like helicopters are equipped with like packs, okay, like to use like bonded cellular technology and also like radio frequency to combine both to be able to cover like the event in all the different locations in Hawaii. But then through what we call RPS, which is an encoder at TVU, there's kind of a hybrid model where you, like I explained before, you have an encoder at the venue and a decoder at the remote studio. They are sending all the signal perfectly synchronized back to their media center in Paris, where they are doing like the entire remote production. So that's like you have the whole more detail on the website if you want to have a look. But that's just like the example of how flexible you can be. And then in terms of setup, which JC explained, like instead of like digging in the ground for line and etc., the setup is very easy. And every Ironman event is kind of the same. I mean, like it's the same kind of like you need motorbike, you need helicopter. I mean, it's the same methodology. So they are just reusing their configuration, but just on different locations. So it makes it very fast, a lot more flexible, and again, like allowing to produce a lot more event, even for smaller audiences, because now you have a real return on investment.
That's great. Thanks, guys. So now we have a clearer understanding of the evolution of remote production, the different types and models that have been implemented in different markets. We've looked at the challenges of cloud production and the benefits of decentralized production. So what can we expect in 2023? What are we going to see as some of the newest and best ways to do remote production? So Fernando, maybe we'll start with your perspective.
Fernando, you're on mute. You're on mute, Fernando.
Sorry about that. Thank you, Johnny. So thank you, Fergal. So I guess one of the main new things that we can expect, right, in 2023 is that this is like where technology becomes easier, right? It's a tool that it's easy to use, right? Day after day, things get less complicated, less complex, right? So of course we still have a different level of complexity, right? But again, I guess one of the main things that we will expect is that everything is getting more easier to use, okay, and easy to access to, right? So and again, this allows us to easily adapt to these most complex workflows that we may have, right? So what we are seeing here, for example, is that I'm going to go over really quick. This is like how we build our ecosystem, right, in the backend. This is entirely the cloud, right, ecosystem. So first of all, we create what we call a persistent media pipeline, okay, and that will remain there. That is why we call it persistent. That will remain always there, okay. Whenever we are creating a session, a program, right, like a producer program, we will create this pipeline for video, audio, graphics, metadata also, right? So on top of that pipeline, on top of that resource, audio and video resource, we have what we call microservices, okay, and this is not new, okay. For sure, everybody knows that the word microservices nowadays, okay. So we can have multiple types of microservices, right, in our ecosystem, right? For example, the recording service, right? The playout service, video mixing service, the audio mixer microservice, and so on, right? We have a lot of microservices, right, running in the system. And it is now when on top of those microservices, we do what we call, we will combine different microservices, probably existing microservices in multiple ways, right? And to fulfill, for example, an application. And that is what we call our micro application, is where we combine selected or predefined or needed microservices all together, and we present what we call the application to the user, okay? So we end up having, for example, producer, right? Johnny also mentioned remote commentator and so on, right? A good example of how we work and how this was done is like we combined a couple of microservices that we have existing, right? And we created what we call replay, right? And because we already have the recording services in place and the playout services in place, and then we presented to the user a new micro application called replay, okay? We can cover that in a bit, okay? So on top of that, what we do is to, we open the APIs, right? Every microservices has its own API, so we can control, we can use third-party services and applications, external applications outside our ecosystem, and we allow them to be able to control our microservices, okay? Like, for example, scheduling system or planning tools, booking tools, right? So everybody can use what they have, what they currently are using in their systems, right? Controlling our ecosystem, super easy, okay? Yeah, I guess that is I mean, a quick overview and introduction of our ecosystem. And I guess combining these all together is a matter of what are the needs that the industry has, okay? And I guess, JC, that is something that we have been discussing a lot, right? And options and possibilities here are huge, right? Yes. So back to you, JC.
So Fernando, that's the interesting part, because actually those micro applications that are each of them doing a specific function like encoding, playing, distributing content, audio mixer, graphic controls, when you gather them in a very specific way, it allows to create a specific customer interface or a specific application that answers specific projects for specific markets. And we have many customers that are requiring a specific gathering of those microservices for very specific needs. And the traditional way is to just develop the entire software and solution again for them. Where in TVU, we just get the bricks that needs to be updated and to add functions to those specific bricks. And then it allows a very efficient and faster rollout to the customer. And when you gather all those bricks together, it makes most of our remote production components today. And just to give a quick recap of what we have today. So as Yoni mentioned, we have the remote production system, what we call RPS. RPS is very unique in the sense that it's within one rack unit. It allows to take 6 feeds and distribute those feeds, either using IP internet or just using the 4G and 5G connection and transmit that to remote location. But we also have the packs, the TVU One packs, the TVU producer, which is the cloud-based production to bring the production high quality available to everyone. And producer is actually some of those bricks. And during the COVID, we introduced another component for remote production, which is TVU Party Line. It's somehow the broadcast quality replacement of Zoom and Sky TX. It also to coordinate your teams together for the production. And as also we discussed before, there's a higher trend of using remote commentator. So remote commentator was not for TVU a brand new development. It was just taking some of those bricks, rearranging those bricks together and adding some specific features that makes TVU remote commentator available very fast. And of course, the one that is being used and more is the TVU Anywhere, which is our mobile application used in news and sports, sometimes even just as a backup of the packs or the physical equipment for the transmission. So I think with this, we can also mention that for the contribution, we also have TVU Grid that takes all the different sources, whether they are IP, NDI, SRT, gather them into one solution, one platform for easy distribution using cloud technology. So for the scaling, we don't use your infrastructure. We can take all those IP sources and allocate them to one destination or 1,000 destination with very low latency and within one click.
Great stuff. Yoni, did you wanted to add a comment there?
Yeah, I mean, like what I think is interesting is to see some live example as well. When like Fernando mentioned about the integration with like a lot of API and open API. I think Fernando, it would be great if you want to maybe share your screen, like to show like the way like we help like talent becomes the new operator with like very simple user interface. I mean, like, of course, we can integrate with any user interface like Stream Deck or Core, Loop Deck, I mean, you name it, allowing like really like producers or streamers to be able to produce like the ways they have been used to do it for many years. But also we have an example, and Fernando will probably share his screen on like Fox, that have been like creating their show during the beginning of the pandemic, which was like Coronavirus Now, and now transforming it into Live Now. And that basically, I mean, is allowing them to do an entire production using the cloud. And so like here is sharing his screen, but using like TVU producer, they are like basically having just the talent, managing their own interface using what we call like a sidecar app, which is just a very quick interface to control the different multi-view and the ad inserts. So something very simple. And now the show can be running. So Fernando, leaving it to you.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Johnny. So I'm not going over all the through the complete user interface. What you guys, I mean, what we are seeing right now, it's TVU producer user interface, and I'm doing this right now because I want to kind of show how Sidecar that Johnny is talking about works. Okay, so Sidecar, it's an application. It's a new application that we use to we create and develop to give directly to the talent, not to the technical director, to the audio operator, just directly to the anchor or to the talent. So he or she is able to control the program, the session, okay, directly from that single application. And that is an application that runs in iOS. Okay, so I have my iPad here running Sidecar. Okay, so all that we need to do. Going through really quick my interface, I do have multiple sources here connected to my producer session. Okay, so I'm gonna select my TVU Anywhere application that I have connected to my session. So I'm gonna try to use my phone, okay, to show you in real time. Okay, this is my iPad, okay, and it's running Sidecar. Okay, I can share these directly in the screen, but I wanted to show how these work. Okay, so in this interface that we have here that we call Sidecar, we have in the left side of the application of the interface, we have different formats, different ways of combining different multiple sources, right? We have full frame, and then we have multiple picture-in-picture layouts. Okay, so and in the right side, sorry, we have our live feeds available, that all the feeds that we have available in that session. Okay, so if you can see, going back to the producer interface, we have the preview window, and then we have the program, okay, on the right. Okay, so you can see that in this moment, right, I'm in the full frame mode, right? So I only need to take, okay, so you can still see my Sidecar application slot number 6, okay? So you can easily go through different slots, okay? Just wanna make sure that you see this, okay? And how fast the reaction is, okay? And this is what we call super low latency, okay, in our real-time interaction layer, okay? So you can directly be your own host, okay, for your own show, okay, and you can directly use your iPad as a Sidecar, right, for your producer session, okay. Also, if you want to have a picture-in-picture, for example, okay, what we call custom view, you will go like here, right? You will select whatever custom view you want to have, right? And then you will be able to select which source you want to have into that window, and then it will be just cut into that custom view, right? As easy as that, okay? And also, while you are using that custom view, you can in real time change sources, okay, as you move, okay? So I'm gonna go back to the preview here. So Johnny, yeah, I wanted to show that to here because it, I guess it makes sense that we see how fast and easy it is to use our Sidecar application. Okay, back to you.
Thank you, Fernando. So, like, what is interesting also is that we've been talking a lot about this production ecosystem, but just I wanted to finish on that note, and then I pass it on to you, Fergal. But it's just that, like, today we like, it's not only like the production part. I mean, we talk about remote commentaries and we talk about replay that is in the cloud, but actually today we are able to go really like end to end, like in the cloud. I mean, like, from, of course, capturing, I mean, you could even like use a smartphone or a professional camera, but you could also just use an IP source, meaning like today CNN feeds, for example, are all available in the cloud, like using our TVU grid, or even like search engine TVU search, which is like allowing you to access like CNN feeds, live feeds directly from a cloud platform. No need to download anything. You just need to be a CNN affiliate in that case, or just pay the fee to like get a part of their program. And you can extract that directly to producer that like Fernando just showed you, and make your live production and output it to any kind of platform. And when I mean any kind, it's not only social media, but it can be OTT, it's like web, I mean, like, you name it. I mean, any kind of platform. And of course, you can always output it to SDI, but the moment you want to have it on SDI traditional TV, you will need like a receiver, like to just get an SDI out. But so the whole ecosystem now is available in the cloud, including creating your own channel, which we will see in the next panel session that we have in 2 days, which you will be able to see also how you can like directly monetize your content and create your own channel using cloud infrastructure, removing hardware cost and like giving you the flexibility that we've talked about today.
Great stuff. Thanks, guys. I am conscious of time, and we do have some good questions that I want to get to. But Fernando, do you have another example you want to run through now?
Yes, we have a few use cases, right? That we wanted to present. One is what we did for Viacom. So they needed to produce Premier League soccer match, several live events, right? And the problem that we need to solve for this use case was that the need of concurrency, okay? The production team needed to be able to produce multiple soccer matches at the same time, right? And I guess like 5 or 6 plus studio shows at the same time, okay? And the problem there was the PCR, right? The infrastructure, the production control rooms and gallery space, and all infrastructure for the production. Okay, so we help them gathering and connecting all the sources that the Premier League sent to the ecosystem into multiple producer sessions that we had running right in our ecosystem. And they were able to spin up whatever number of producer sessions they need by date, right? And spin down whenever they are done, okay? So during the production, during the live shows, they were able to add graphics, right? And control all the feeds that were coming in, right? Have multiple operators, multiple collaborators, as we call them, right? That is people that that is part of that producer session. And for example, you can have one operator, one audio operator, then you can have one playout or clip operator, right? That it's running the clips, the playout clips, right? And so on, okay? Everything gets recorded, right? So all the feeds that were coming into the producer sessions got recorded and gets recorded, okay? And then they were editing those live feeds so they can feed a VOD platform that they need, okay? So on top of all these workflow, entirely created in the cloud, we use TVU channel that, as Johnny mentioned, we will cover that part during next webinar. But they are using channel to have that presence that they need in the OTT platforms. Okay, so they are using all recorded content that they get during matches, right? Then they are doing some minor modifications, right? So they can get the exact same, the exact time that they need, and they are creating a scheduling channel, and they are using the channel to fulfill the content and distribute the content in 24/7 operation, right, with channel. Okay, so yeah, that is one of the use case that we wanted to present today. Okay, and if I may, I don't know how we are doing with the time, but lastly but not least, we have another use case that we wanted to present, right? So we can show how is the process, how we walk through the entire process with the customers, with our customers, right? From the very beginning that we start discussing needs, the problems, how we can solve those, right? And how we can start doing some experimentations, right? Some testing, and then how we can move forward and present a real scenario, okay? So that it's what I'm talking about is about RTVE use case, okay, for Radio 3, the Almagro festival show in a theater, right? And the important, I mean, the interesting thing of this is that they were used to deploy OB-Vans tracks, right? Like we were been discussing throughout the panel, right? And this is a really good example of how experimentation can leverage your content and can leverage your production, okay? Because this has been done with the technology group of RTVE, okay? So they had at that time all the tools from TVU, right? They are available to experiment, right? And to try to achieve this workflow, right? Without the need of deploying an OB-Van, big broadcast, big lenses, cameras, right? And satellite links like JC mentioned before, right? Since they had everything in place, you just saw that it's a matter of spinning up some services. They were able to achieve getting and producing this show, getting the content, and not only produce the content that it's a really nice show to see, right? But also sending the broadcast feed back to the station, having some presence in social media like Instagram, for example, because our producer can also create an output that it's 9:16 and that it's in vertical mode, right? And the rest of platforms, okay, like YouTube, Facebook, etc., etc. Okay. So really quick, what I wanted to show is like how is the process, right? From the time that we create and we use Miro, for example, that is something we didn't mention so far, to create the workflows, and we iterate the workflows between the customers, our clients, and us, right? And how that starts to get alive, right? So let me, if I may, Christelle, let me share my screen. So I'm going to go over really quick the producer interface again, so we can.
Just while Fernando shares his screen, I mean, what I like with that RTV use case is that we are all talking about a full cloud workflow using smartphone and a producer platform, a cloud platform to do the producing and distribution of the content. And it's all 4K quality and all over 5G network. So I just like it in the way that it's using kind of the top quality, latest generation of like cellular network now to do a content that before would have required like an OB truck or an OB van. And that's to show how powerful it is. So like Fernando will explain how they did it using that platform. But it's just to say that there's no more limit to what you can do with cloud solutions. So it's like if you have any project or any workflow that you want to discuss and like even like a challenge, like how can we move that to the cloud or integrate with your existing environment? I mean, reach out to us. I mean, we love working with what we call like it's a collaborative platform called Miro, and we work in real time with you on like proposing and discussing workflows that are compatible using cloud native environment or hybrid environment. And I mean, it's super powerful. And I mean, yeah, it's impressive. I mean, you've seen some of the use case. It's impressive how much things now can just be done using a laptop. Okay, it's impressive.
Thank you, Johnny. Yeah, so the elements that took part for RTVE, exactly that. It was a producer session that it was running in 4K, resolution, okay? And you can imagine how easy it is to spin up a producer that it's running in a 4K resolution, and that's it, right? Without the needs of all that heavy infrastructure, right? So 3 TVU Anywhere mobile devices, right? That the RTV team deployed around the stage, right? In the theater, and then they use a 4K pack, right? A transmitter, a backpack. TVU1 actually in 4K, right? Everything was using 5G technology, okay, cellular technology. So it was really easy, okay. Not only the way that they can connect sources, but also pre-recorded content, okay. What I wanted to show you is how easy it is to connect, right, different sources here. For example, let me remove slot 6 and slot 5, okay, to emulate what they did at that time, okay. And I have the clip of the press release regarding RTVE Battle Show running in preview, okay. So you can see how easy it is to get a lot of content loaded in the session, right? And how we can control it, okay? So again, here we have 8 inputs. They use a producer session with 4 inputs and 3 outputs, okay? So in this pane here, where you have all the different sources, you will click directly there, okay? And for this slot, I'm going to use a TVU1 like they did, okay? It's going to be under EU name, so I can filter that. I can select, and again, this is all the sources, all the sources that I have available under my account, okay? So it will depend on the account, okay? So I will click on Add Source, and that's it, okay? So again, you will need to keep up doing this if you have multiple sources, and then you will have here Anywhere applications, right? Where I have my my iPhone already online. So it's, again, we'll click there and then add to source, okay? And that's it. I have my TVU Anywhere application right here, okay? So I can go back and forth, right? And then I can cut video right here, okay? So that is how easy it is to spin up a 4K session, for example, and connect different sources that you might have, not only in the stage, but as RTV had at that time, a pack and different sources outside the venue, okay? So they could produce the show, okay? And what I wanted to show also is a couple of new features, right? Because for sure, most of the people here could be potentially aware of how producer user interface works, okay? So really thing to mention is how we can communicate with all those kind of sources that we have in the venue, right? So whenever you have a TVU Anywhere mobile or the pack connected to the producer session, you will get those slots under the intercom tab, okay? So no need to go outside the ecosystem, try to get a communication system in place so you can have the communications in real time. It's everything, it's all embedded in the same UI, in the same system, okay? Other thing that we have been working with, it's SCADI signaling, okay? So this is to signal and to embed SCADI markers into our different multiple outputs, right? It could be used to monetize downstream, right? To send control messages to ad servers downstream in the workflow, and such of among another type of control signals, okay? And also, like JC mentioned about PTC control, right? It's a feature that we added a couple of months ago, right? So for example, if my pack, going back to my pack, had, instead of a broadcast camera or a handycam, a PTC, right? I could include this PTC control, right, for this slot into my PTC tab control, okay? So by doing so, you will be able to use the pack as a router. So you will be able to send PTC commands through the pack and then use a direct connection from the pack to the PTC camera to control that, okay? So you can have the PTC outside of the venue with the pack besides the PTC camera, and that's it. You will be able to control the camera directly from the producer interface, okay? Then we have clip players, right? Under clip player tab, where we can have all the interviews ahead of time, right? And so replay app, maybe this is something that we could cover some other time, some other webinar. And then a really neat feature that is something that we are discussing a lot with several customers is that we can have the producer session running by its own, okay? By creating different types of automated workflows, okay? In this case, we can have source one in program by 10 seconds and then having producer automatically cut to source two and so on, et cetera, et cetera. Okay, so again, the intention is not to go through the complete set of functionalities and features that we have in producer, but the idea was to show you how easy it is to connect sources into the interface, okay? And lastly, let me show you, this is the workbench, what we have for producer dashboard. So in this dashboard, you will have multiple sessions that you could have, right? For example, I have the one that it's running right now, then some other testing that we are doing, right? And then you can control, you can set up, and you can create and spin up new programs, right? So it's easy, it's super easy to have, okay, and to achieve, right? Okay, so I guess that it's that is what we wanted to cover. Okay, Johnny, Fergal, back to you. Okay. Thank you very much.
Okay, thanks a million, Fernando. And just a reminder that the video that Fernando referred to there, RTV, is on the TVU Networks YouTube channel. And the title of the piece is Leveraging 4K Cloud Workflow at Spain's Almagro Classical Theatre Festival. So you'll find it there.